Welcome back. The Pentagon has a plan to recover readiness, but the Government Accountability Office says the Defense Department can do more to establish metrics for readiness. GAO says readiness varies by domain over the last several years. Diana Maurer is Director of Defense Capabilities and Management Issues at GAO. Diana, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. The work that you and your team did focused on something called the Readiness Recovery Framework. What is that framework and how does it work?
Sure. So when you think about the last 20 years or so, the military has been essentially in a period of nearly nonstop conflict in one way or another in different places around the globe. And in more recent years, there was increasing concern at the Pentagon as well as on Capitol Hill about what that meant for the overall readiness of the force. So Congress and the Pentagon and DoD more broadly embarked on this effort called the Readiness Recovery Framework, which is a systematic way for the various military services to take some resource investments they're getting from the Congress in terms of extra money to put that towards improving readiness and having a consistent way of reporting on those results, as well as hopefully clear goals and measures to track progress along the way.
I teased this a few minutes ago, Diana, as good news and bad news. And I said that for this reason. You write, readiness increased in the ground domain, declined in the sea domain between fiscal 17 and 19. Rating changes were mixed in the air, space, and cyber domains. What did you see within any of those individual domains that was either reason for encouragement or reason for pause?
Sure. So within the ground domain, for example, which was a combination of the ground units in the Army as well as ground units in the Marine Corps, we found a great deal of focus and emphasis on both aspects of readiness, both what we refer to as the inputs, right? Better training, doing a better job of maintaining equipment, ensuring you have the right number of people, that all improved, as well as the overall mission capabilities, the output of readiness, the ability of ground units to successfully execute their missions. By contrast, in the sea domain, which includes predominantly the Navy's ships and submarines, as well as the Marine Corps' ship units, we found that both aspects of readiness, both the inputs as well as the outputs, had declined in overall readiness.
There is a bit of a difference, it seems, in this work between the way that you are looking at readiness and the way that you're measuring it and the way the department is looking at readiness and measuring it. Since 2019, the Office of Secretary of Defense has expressed that the ground, sea, and air domains are captured in the Readiness Recovery Framework. But in 2019, GAO reported DoD wasn't measuring or reporting readiness to perform full spectrum operations by domain. Tell me about the difference between the way they're looking at it and the way you would like them to look at it.
Sure. So the way that the Pentagon is looking at it is built on, frankly, centuries of tradition, right? There are the military services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and now the Space Force as well. And they have a set way of running their organizations, tracking progress, and so forth. But one of the things that we had noted several years ago is that the way that the military actually functions in the field is as a joint force. So you never have just the Navy or never have just the Army going into a conflict. They're working in a joint way, which is why we recommended, and then Congress ultimately required, the department to find a way to report on these domains. So air, ground, sea, space, as well as cyber. We felt that it was important for DoD to report readiness on a service basis, but we also feel that it's equally important for them to report on the domain basis. They have not done that yet, and we think that they should.
The recommendations that you make, you note in this report that there are 5 of them that you've made previously, and it seems from the reading that I did here, that's the biggest disparity, isn't it? That you would like to see the department report in the way that you just outlined, and so far they have not done so.
That's right. That is the biggest disparity. And to give the department credit, they have made a great deal of progress, both in addressing readiness challenges as well as the way it goes about doing that. But we do think that this is an important way to report on the domain aspect of this in addition to on a service basis. We think that would be beneficial to the department, and it would be very beneficial to the Congress as well, as the Congress exercises its oversight responsibilities. There's a lot of debate right now, for example, about the president's proposed budget for DoD. The new administration is taking a hard look at priorities and balancing those with resources. Reporting on readiness on a domain basis would be an additional input to help inform those very important decisions.
Diana, we have about 30 seconds left. We chatted a little bit before we went on the air, and you mentioned that you're glad that you're able to provide this unclassified version of this work to what is typically a classified report. Why is it important for some version of this work to get out there so that everybody can see it?
Well, I think it's important for the Congress to be able to have discussions at a high level about readiness and the department's progress. It's important for the public to have an understanding of how well DoD is doing with the $700 billion plus a year that the department receives from the American taxpayers to execute its missions, and it provides good oversight. Obviously, we can't get into the details of specific numbers or how far different aspects of the military are achieving goals, but it is important to be able to have at least a generally informed discussion about balancing resources with the ability to execute on required readiness.
Diane, always terrific insight. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Francis.